Okay, we've got a cool project for you guys today. This is a 1960 CUSHMAN scooter. CUSHMAN is an American motor company that was founded in Nebraska in the early 1900s. During World War II, they became kind of popular as a manufacturer of lightweight, high efficiency, low cost means of transportations for both soldiers and just American households. And then they got repopularized in the late 50s and early 60s, sort of as, I guess you could say, America's answer to the Vespa. This one right here is in honestly really good shape for the most part. It has been repainted. We've been told that this is multi-stage paint, but we're gonna take it really easy and go careful when we get to the polishing step. You know, there's quite a bit of oxidation, there's some brake dust, there's some rust. You know, overall it just needs a little bit of TLC, and we are excited to show you guys the project. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I have my pressure washer gun here, but I don't have power going to it. It's just basically a water sprayer at this point. Is I'm going to rinse the wheels off a little bit. I'm going to spritz them down with some non-acid wheel and tire cleaner, agitate them just a little bit, rinse them off, squirt them down with some iron remover, and see how we're looking after that. You know what, I feel like this is actually going to take a couple of passes of iron remover, so I'll just go ahead and insult my nose while we're at it. So I'm not trying to treat this like I would a modern Harley or whatever. One more round of iron remover. You don't have to like scrub the daylights out of iron remover, but you want to agitate it a little bit. Wheel cleaner. You know, when doing delicate work like this, you know, I always keep my detailing brushes separated based on purpose, but it's still always a good idea to kind of like rinse them off every once in a while, early and often. I'm not gonna worry too much about the underside of the fenders. Like I said, this is not getting ready for like a car show. Really, it's just going to a new owner, and he wants it to look, you know, nicer than when he bought it. So I'm just gonna clean it up really good. I'll probably get the underside of this by hand later. I already rinsed it pretty good. And then we'll go ahead and hit it with our iron remover. It's not gonna hurt anything to just get these little bits of paint while I'm down here. The specific brand of iron remover, by the way, that I'm using today is Adams. This is not necessarily my favorite. It just happens to be the one I have on hand right now. I really do like it though. If you were gonna ask me what my personal favorite is, I would probably tell you Geon Iron, which comes from the UK. Really great company. You know, here where I live, their stuff takes a little while to get here. So if I'm in a pinch, I usually get something from an American company. And I'm gonna let that, as they always call it, dwell and do its thing for a minute. One of the reasons I really like the thick, like 9mm orange nitrile gloves is they have these little diamond patterns on the fingertips. So, you know, you can actually kind of use them as a little bit of a scrubbing tool. Not on, you know, paint obviously, but certain materials. Okay, nobody knows the story behind this vehicle except for the previous owner, who we are not in contact with. I mean, that's not even set on straight. So I guess we're gonna just kind of gently remove this dead pedal pad or whatever you'd call it and come up with a game plan throughout the process. I'm probably being a little more careful with this than I honestly need to be, but I have no idea what's going on with the wiring. I don't know what's original. I don't know what is a hatchet job. You know, so we went ahead and we cleaned the wheels, as you guys saw. We did some iron remover back here. We did some iron remover up here. Now I'm going to get my steam cleaner and I'm going to work on kind of getting the initial grime off of this. I honestly probably could spray it, but I really just don't want to take any chances, and it's not like this thing is very large or super complicated, so I am going to steam it. This is the Mikola 1270. We've got another one, a larger one, a 1385, but I kind of like this one just because it's portable. I kind of want to just get the initial layer of grime kind of loosened up a little bit, and then I'll wipe it off. Obviously, normally there's an array of attachments you can put on the end of this thing. I actually really like just using it contactless for work like this when I'm kind of unsure of the condition of a finish, or maybe the material something is made out of, that kind of thing. The surface of the paint is really clean. I just wiped it down with Geon Prep, which is really just basically an alcohol solution. I like it a lot though because it produces less drag, I think, than using just conventional alcohol and distilled water IPA. So hang out with me for a minute while I polish the paint, and then I'll probably go ahead and polish the chrome a little bit while I'm at it. This is not a full restoration. This is really just a cleanup. This is a new toy for a client, and I just want it to look good. You know, anytime I get a unique project like this, I always try to do a little bit of research about it before I proceed, both to kind of understand how the thing was made, what it's made out of, and also it's just kind of cool to get a history lesson. I have been told that this is a CUSHMAN EAGLE. My impression is that a Super Eagle would have a exhaust pipe on the other side. I would be delighted for somebody out there who knows more about this than I do to correct me on that. I think this is a CUSHMAN EAGLE, although the plate down here says CUSHMAN Husky, and I believe the company was started by a guy named Cushman in Everett, so that's not the company name. So I don't know if this is a CUSHMAN EAGLE or a CUSHMAN Husky. So somebody who is an expert on vintage motorcycles, please correct me if I'm mistaken. I am not claiming to be the expert on this vehicle. I've just got a very soft microfiber finishing pad with some Griot's Best of Show Series correcting cream, and I am going to start right here on this fender. It's not in bad shape, but you know, it's definitely been used. So it's definitely single stage paint. I would venture a guess to say this is not original. I don't think that, based on the condition of the rest of this bike, that that this paint is, well, how many years is that now? 60 something years old. So I am going to drop down to an even softer pad and even softer finish, just to be a little bit on the safe side. This is not going to warrant a full-blown correction out of me. I really just want to get the surface of the paint a little glossier, as safely as possible. You know, one of the things when polishing, especially paint that you have really you know nothing about, and if I'm being honest here, I used to have a paint depth gauge and it broke. I need to get a new one very soon. But I mainly work on, you know, modern vehicles, so the need doesn't come up very often. But the main goal is preservation. You want to introduce as few risk factors as humanly possible. So, you know, always a good idea. Always a good idea to keep, you know, some compressed air. Even though I I want to ensure that nothing comes between me and my pad. Okay, I'm still working with my 3-inch. I moved down to a Lake Country finishing pad and Griot's Perfecting Cream. This is not gonna have a ton of correcting power involved, but it's gonna serve the purposes that we're looking for just fine, which is, you know, just to enhance the overall look of the Cushman while preserving as much of this paint's integrity as possible. Because nobody is around to tell us when this thing was painted last. Or how. And when working with single stage, as long as your pad is not coming up the color of the paint, you are good. But I think it was a wise move to switch down to the softer pad. Here in a little bit, which I may or may not show you, you know, I'll move the shifter ball around a little bit. This Cushman is kind of interesting actually. The clutch is a pedal down here, and this is actually a shifter. You can start it out in first gear or second gear. I imagine if you started out in second gear, you're not gonna launch with very much power. This thing is a 2.5 stroke, 3-bore engine. From the research that I've done, I think it makes around 8 horsepower. Once again, would really love to hear otherwise if somebody knows more about this than I do. Now I threw a more aggressive pad on. I just wanna clean up this, the gas cap a little bit. Pretty good. While I'm out here getting this old Lake Country pad mucked up with by polishing metal, go ahead and hit this chrome really quick. And as you'll see in the close-ups, you know, there were quite a bit of, you know, deposits on the paint, and, you know, especially in the lower area where the wheels are at and everything. Like I said, this is not a restoration job. I'm not going to worry about every little speck of oxidation on this. You know, I used a fair amount of iron remover in the cleaning stage, and it accomplished exactly what the owner was looking for, which is just really just an enhancement. You know, so please nobody think that this is being passed off as a restoration. It absolutely is not. This is just, you know, a careful little detail on a bike, and it just so happens to be old. As for this emblem here, I am quite sure that this is original and more or less untouched. You know, it appears to be aluminum. I did quite a bit of research about these models, and honestly, it's just really hard to find out any information about these things other than, you know, people selling them or showing them at car shows. I'm probably just gonna hand polish this a little bit. Throw a little metal polish on my fingertip with a microfiber. Just give it a little light enhancement. If this is your first time polishing aluminum, don't be freaked out by the fact that it will turn black, and it will basically never stop turning black. That's just the way aluminum is. So I'm gonna try that out and see if I'm happy with the way that it looks. You know, see, turning black just a little bit. If you were actually using your DA, you know, it would drum up that oxidation a lot faster and a lot more efficiently. Yeah, I've still got some cleanup to do here in the grooves, but this accomplishes pretty much what I was looking for. I just wanted to brighten it up just a tad without doing anything that was going to jeopardize the finish. You know, I don't think that this is coated or plated with anything. It doesn't look like it is to me, but it would be kind of a shame if me being overly ambitious with typical methods screwed something up. And then here's my very clean polish removal microfiber. I'll just use that to get around the edges. So I did already use an iron remover on this exhaust pipe. You know, this particular project doesn't necessitate going through a gallon of the stuff. Perfection is not the goal, just enhanced. And it took care of a fair amount of, you know, the embedded stuff. But I'm gonna just take a little piece of clay, a clay bar, that I will probably not reuse for anything except for maybe just a similar process again, like, you know, maybe on some tailpipes. You know, you never want to reuse clay that you've used on something like this, certainly not on paint. And then I have, you know, you can already see what it's picked up. And then I just have a little bit of O&R here. I'm doing everything on this just a little bit out of order just because of the way that this bike is put together. I'm not doing all the polishing in one step. I'm not doing all of the prep in one step. I'm just kind of like working as I go and deciding what makes the most sense at the time. So I'm gonna clay bar this. This is actually working significantly better than the iron remover did, but they both kind of worked together to get me the results I wanted. And you know, it's picking up a ton of that embedded stuff out of these tailpipes. You know, one of my biggest hopes for making a video about this bike actually was I just really want to learn more about it. And there's lots of people on the internet who know way more about things like this than I do. So, you know, I'm really excited to see, you know, what a subject matter expert or just, you know, somebody who's into this kind of stuff has to say about it. Cool. I think that looks pretty good. I beat up almost all of my pads that I typically use for chrome and metal not too long ago working on a big trailer, and I honestly just have yet to replace them. So I've demoted a couple of foam pads, which, you know, are maybe not the most effective thing in the world for this kind of thing, but for what I'm looking for on this, it's gonna be fine. This is just a Lake Country polishing pad, and then I have a little metal polish mixed on the pad. So based on the little bit of research that I did, I would not be surprised if this seat is original. Probably not. Probably was restored back to original looking at some point in time. Either way, it's gonna be old. So I'm going to take it really, really easy on this. I'm not going to use steam. I'm not going to use any abrasive cleaners. I really just preservation and better is the overall goal of this project. This is not a restoration. This is not a situation where we're going to take chances. I just have a little P&S Express interior cleaner. And this right here is the Weapons Grade Garage favorite interior detailing brush. This one is from the Rag Company. Comes in a bunch of colors. We just like hot pink around here. This is exactly what I was looking for. I'm assuming this is probably vinyl and so is the piping. But you know, when you don't really, when you don't have an owner that knows the history of something this old, you really just, you can't assume. entirely sure what this is. It's not raised. I don't want to be real aggressive with it. I'm just gonna leave that little guy alone. One more round of Express. And sometimes if you need to get into the nooks and crannies, you can pinch your bristles together just a little bit like that, and it gives you just a little bit more leverage for stuff like this crevasse. And yeah, you can really kind of see in real time the surface grossness that was stuck to this seat come off, and it's a whole different shade of cream. This is a lot closer to what it's supposed to look like, but we are not going to take any unnecessary chances. The seat is now going to get some Aero 303 on a microfiber round. If you're unfamiliar, this stuff is like sriracha for me. I just will not live without it. You can pretty much use it on anything that isn't paint, glass, or metal. I mean, you could use it on those things, but that's not really what it's for. This is a protectant for vinyls, for plastics, for rubbers. I even use it quite a bit as a leather conditioner. Because you got to remember, most modern leathers, this is not part of that conversation, most modern leathers are bonded and laminated and that kind of thing, and so effectively the top layer is essentially a vinyl. And in a lot of ways you can treat them that way if they are in good shape. Looks like there's a little bit that I missed with iron remover here on this shifter ball. I'm just gonna spritz it down with some for a second and babysit it. It actually looks like maybe it was hit with a little bit of overspray whenever this thing was repainted, but I didn't watch it happen. Also, you should definitely be wearing gloves whenever you use something like iron remover. To be honest, I didn't throw any on because it's hard to touch the buttons on this camera, but always wear gloves for stuff like this. I generally do, I'm just not right this second. Well, and you can already see this is brightening up a little bit, bleeding purple a little bit. I thought these were iron deposits, but that's just overspray, it looks like. And now I'm just gonna use a dollop of Griot's correcting cream, which is a diminishing polish. It's kind of like a compound that turns into a polish, and I'm just gonna do this by hand. I mean, it doesn't look bad, I just want it to be a little bit enhanced. Cool. I think that's about as good as that's gonna get. I would say this is far from a corrective step, really. I used an old polishing pad that I don't use for much else that I got really nice and clean. I mean, if you really think about it, polishing is essentially just another finer step of cleaning. So I'm just trying to get this thing ready for a nice little wax. The owner of this actually bought this for his dad. It's not reminiscing the good old days for his father. He actually has talked about wanting one of these since he was a kid. The dad, not the kid of the dad. So I'm really excited to see the look on his face when he comes and picks this up later. You know, the hardcore detailer in me wants to take this whole thing apart, and I want to do touch-up paint, I want to do a full correction. You know, but sometimes I have to remind myself what the reality is of this project, and preservation and enhancement is the goal here. All right, we've gotten the cleanup on this Cushman just about done. We did the wheels and tires, we steam cleaned it, we cleaned up the seat, we polished a fair amount of the chrome, we hand polished the emblem on the front. Remember, we did decide that this was single stage paint. So at this point, we are going to just kind of put some finishing touches on it. You know, I kind of waited until the end to get any of this taken care of, just because I was working up at the top and, you know, debris and that kind of stuff is gonna fall. All right, so it looks like the previous attempt at resecuring this, you know, dead pedal pad or whatever you want to call it was probably done with a silicone-based product, and that will degrade rubber over time. It almost kind of melts it. So what I decided to do is just clean it up really good and then just use some 3M trim adhesive to put it back on. You have like a few minutes of work time with this stuff, and that way you can kind of massage it into place. Honestly, that should be just fine. Now we're going to give the paint some protection and make it even look more delicious. We are going to use some Griot's liquid polygloss. This is a polymer-based sealant. It lasts, you know, 6 to 12 months. And in my experience, this particular one actually does a pretty good job of making good on its promises. This is just a 3-inch Lake Country like wax and sealant pad. I'm gonna run it at about a 3 or 4. Now, of course, if applying sealants by machine is something new to you, this is not like doing a paint correction. You're not going to go full throttle on this. You really just want to be able to apply it evenly and give your machine enough power that it doesn't stall. So really, a 3 or 4 G's are pretty good. So that's pretty much it. We're gonna let the liquid polygloss cure for anywhere between 30-45 minutes. It's not as hot today as it usually has been, although you can tell it's still pretty warm. So I'll come back out here in about an hour and buff it off, and then when we have some good daylight in the morning, we'll see those money shots. Okay, so our Cushman cleanup is just about done. We detailed it, we polished it, even though it was single stage paint. We were really careful just for a little light enhancement. Once again, this is not a restoration. We cleaned up and protected the seat with 303. We polished out all of the chrome, not to perfection, but to way better. We protected the rubber and plastic and vinyl also with 303. It actually really brought it back to life quite a bit. And then I machine applied some Griot's liquid polygloss, which is a polymer-based sealant, last night. and it's now been curing for about 12 hours. So really it's just about finishing touches. The owner is going to come get it in a little bit. I am going to give it a once over with Bead Maker, which is one of my favorite, like low longevity, high quality polymer. It's basically just a fancy quick detailer if you want to get really technical about it. But I really like it. We use it for a lot of things. So I'm just going to give it a nice little spritz with that. And then I have a very soft finishing cloth here. I think this one is a rag company, maybe a Eagle Edgeless or something like that. I don't remember. And that's pretty much it. I think this old Cushman looks pretty darn good.